Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel for another amazing recipe. This week I'm going to show you how to make a totally vegan slow cooker pumpkin pie. Yes, you heard me right. We're going to be making a pumpkin pie in the slow cooker. It's actually much easier than you'd think. We're going to be using a pie crust that's really easy to make. I actually made a double portion of this crust for Thanksgiving, so I have one frozen. Regardless, I'm going to leave the full recipe for the crust in the description below, as always. Secondly, the filling is made all in the Vitamix. It's super easy to make, and I'm going to show you how to whip this up in 20 to 30 minutes max, including cleaning. Let's get to the recipe. So before we get everything going, I'm going to explain the ingredients in the filling really quickly because they're super easy, really nice, cleaner, and they come together in the Vitamix in like 10 minutes. That's like the best part of this all. With a little bit of prep work, your recipe will come together really quickly. We're going to be using a full can of pumpkin puree, so 14 to 15 ounces worth of pumpkin puree. You can definitely use regular, but using these cans are really great, and they're available all year round, so I just like to have them. I'm going to be using a 1/4 cup's worth of maple syrup and also a teaspoon of vanilla extract and 1/2 cup's worth of cashews. I make these amazing little cashew cream cubes that I freeze, and then I use them anytime I need them in a recipe. Normally I use them in stews, but in this awesome scenario, we're going to be using it in our filling to replace coconut cream because I like the lower fat content in cashews. It's non-saturated fat, it's regular unsaturated fat, I'm pretty sure. Hopefully don't fact check me on that, but it's also a very neutral flavor, and whatever recipe I'm making won't have that coconut flavor if you don't want it. But of course, if you're nut free, use coconut cream instead. You can also use sunflower butter if you're feeling cheeky. And then I have a cup's worth packed of dates that have been soaked in water. I'm gonna be using, I think the pronunciation is, Neglet-Noor dates, something like that. I always confuse them. They're smaller and they're actually very dry when you buy them at the grocery store. So I like to let them soak, but honestly, you want to soak your medjool dates as well whenever you use them in a recipe. So save some money if you know you're going to be baking a lot with dates and get the cheaper ones and just soak them before you blitz them. Additional ingredients, we're going to be using a teaspoon of kosher salt in addition to a 1/4 cup's worth of cornstarch. You can also use tapioca starch. I haven't tried this with arrowroot powder, but sometimes I do have luck with it as well. And a 1.5 tablespoons of pumpkin pie spice, which I like to get in bulk this time of year because it's really easy to just take a tablespoon's worth of the spice and knock it into whatever recipe you're making. Basically, all we need to do now is blend everything and then assemble it all into the slow cooker. For pumpkin pie filling, everything comes together super quickly in our Vitamix, and it will be done in 10 to 15 minutes depending on how much you've done for prep work. Add all of the ingredients listed on the screen and also in the description into a high-speed blender, ideally a Vitamix, also linked in the description, and then set aside. So now that everything is blended, it's really smooth, it tastes really nice. I added just a little bit more salt to mine because I wanted it to have a little bit more flavor. This is the perfect amount of sweetness for me, so tailor it to your taste. The second step we're gonna do is basically just roll out our wonderful pie crust to the size of our crock pot. You can do this in any crock pot. Just make sure that the crust is a good length, so whenever you put your filling, it doesn't go over the top. I'm gonna try to bake it on low for 4 hours. You can also do high, but my slow cooker tends to kind of burn certain parts of the crust, but not evenly at all. It's really old. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cook it on slow, and that actually works in this recipe because the cornstarch will make it kind of eggy. Typically pumpkin pie is made with eggs in the filling. It's kind of custardy. Here we will replicate that by cooking it low and slow for about 4 hours. So let's get to that step. For the assembly of our pumpkin pie, it's very similar to the assembly of our pecan pie. We're going to take out the same crust. I do have a variation on the crust. In case you're interested, I'll leave that in the description, but you can use these crusts universally for any pies that you want. It's just fat, flour, and a little bit of sugar. But I like to measure out my pumpkin pie to the insert of my slow cooker, and then I put it in similar with parchment paper, and then I add all of my pumpkin pie filling to my pumpkin pie. I smooth it out with a spatula, and then I add it to my slow cooker. It can cook for 4 hours on low or on high for 2 hours. So you choose what you prefer. If you cook it on high for 2 hours, it cooks the crust really well and also the filling, but on a low setting, I think it cooks the crust just a little bit more, but the filling is more set. So you choose which bake you prefer in your ultimate final product. Once your pie is fully cooked, gently take it out of your insert. It will bend a little bit. This is completely normal. And then let it cool completely before you start cutting and dig into it.